Would you describe yourself as someone with lots of friends?
No.
Okay. Are you attracted to men with lots of friends and a dynamic social circle, would you say?
I was going to say probably not. I'm not massively into big social circles anyway, so no, there's nothing that attracts me.
So you go into all of this effort to turn yourself into a high quality man, make yourself attractive, the kind of guy that women are going to find desirable. But still you're left with this question: how do I actually meet women? If you've been watching this channel for a while, you'll know that there's one method that I promote above all others, and that's meeting women through your social circle. You're an awesome guy, you're friends with a bunch of awesome guys who have awesome high quality girlfriends. Every week you're going out to parties, sporting matches, concerts, board games nights, whatever it is, but you're always meeting new people through this extended social circle. And from there, you meet a girl who's going to find you desirable, who you also like, and boom, there's your relationship. That, in my mind, is the most reliable, the most natural way of not just meeting women, but of also saving yourself time, because you're effectively guaranteeing that because you're only mixing in high quality people's social circles, that any women that you're introduced to are also going to be high quality people because they've been socially vetted by people who you trust. When people in my private consultations ask me, how do I meet women? I don't really like to deviate too far from that advice because I know that that will work. However, I was recently communicating with a long-time supporter of this channel, and we were talking about this, but he just wasn't feeling this advice. He'd had a string of bad luck with women and just wasn't meeting the right kind of girls through his social circle. He wanted to know what else I had to offer, what other suggestions did I have floating around my brain for meeting women. So against my better judgment, I have written a list of 10 other ways to meet women. But before I get to that list, I want to make it absolutely clear that I don't consider the content of this video to be advice that I'm giving. I'll tell you again, I do believe that the best way to meet women, the most reliable, trustworthy, safe way of meeting women is through your social circle. But maybe that's not working for everybody. So with that in mind, here are 10 other suggestions. Number 1, day game. Go onto YouTube and spend about 20 hours learning about game and pickup artist stuff. Learn how to talk to women, what generates attraction, learn some basic openers and some fun games that you can play with women. Then whenever you're out at public, you're at the grocery store, you're at the beach, you're at the gym, whatever it is, you see a pretty girl, go up to her, run some game, give it your best shot. I will say that I do know people who've met their long-term partners through this method, so it can work. Number 2, dating apps. I'm so glad that I prefaced this list by saying that this is not advice that I'm giving. For the most part, I would not recommend dating apps, as I've already covered in many of my videos how rigged they are against men and how deleterious they are to a man's self-esteem. Having said that, I do actually know people who are in successful long-term relationships who did meet through online dating. They are outliers, but it is technically possible to meet somebody through one of these apps. Some of the relationships I'm thinking of in my personal life, like friends of mine that I know, their relationships are actually great. They're really well suited to each other. So that is an option. And if you want to go down this route, you need to do a bunch of research into the psychology of what photos are going to sell and take the time to actually get really, really good photos. You also want to develop fantastic text game. This is not something that you can just bluff your way through. If you're going to stand out, you need to have really, really tight texting abilities. So do some research, watch some videos, practice this, keep track of what's working, what's not. Refine your text game. Number 3, BDSM munches. This option is not going to be at all relevant to people whose sexual tastes are more vanilla. But if you're into the kinky stuff, you've got a couple of BDSM fetishes, then you should know that most BDSM communities are extremely social. In most cities, they put on events every week, every couple of weeks, every month, depending on the size of your city, and they're very welcoming to newcomers. A female friend of mine met her long-term partner at one of these events, and they have a fantastic relationship, so it can be a good place to meet somebody. A munch is the name that they give to these social events that they have, and you just turn up and you just start chatting to people because at least you know that you've got this thing in common. So if you want to meet like-minded people in this kind of community, you want to go to the website FetLife and type in your city and just find out what social stuff's going on there. Number 4 is travel, and this one gets me a bit more excited because I actually do recommend this method. I think it's a good way of meeting women. From what I've observed is that it takes a certain amount of confidence to be able to travel, to leave your home country and go and see the world. And from what I've seen, the caliber of women who are traveling tends to be of a much higher quality than the kind of women who just stay home. A few years ago, I spent a couple of months in Ubud and Uluwatu in Bali, and I was struck by how much higher the quality of the women were that I was interacting with than you'd just ordinarily find back home. And I found the same thing when I was traveling in the Thai Islands earlier this year. It can be hard for you to find a long-term partner when you're traveling, mostly because the person that you're interested in is from a completely different country to you, and also because women who are traveling and overseas tend not to be looking for their soulmate. They're more just single, young, fun, and looking to have a good time. However, I do know of couples in my personal life who met while traveling. Now they have a long-term relationship, they have children together, and they're very happy, so it is possible. If you're traveling, be sure not to stay in isolated hotel rooms. The way to meet people is to stay in hostel dorm environments that are really social, and you get to meet lots of new people. Number 5, volunteering. Here's where we get into the list of some of the stranger options. If you're a really passionate conservative or really passionate progressive, whatever your particular political affiliation is, you could always volunteer for the political campaign of somebody in your local area and meet a whole bunch of passionate young people through that method. The good thing about that is that you're likely to already be vetted for people who have similar belief systems to you. But this doesn't have to be political. It can be any cause. You could be really passionate about ending cancer or the environment, whatever means a lot to you. If there's some kind of volunteer organization in your local area, you could join that and meet a whole bunch of people and be part of social activities. Number 6, amateur theater. I told you this list was getting strange. So maybe you've got some dramatic talent, or maybe the idea of acting, singing, or dancing in front of people just makes you sick to your stomach. Just know that community theater can be really fun. It's not pretentious, it doesn't take itself very seriously, and it's highly social. It also tends to attract a lot of women, so the ratio is likely to be very much in your favor. And if you have no interest in doing anything dramatic, that's absolutely fine, because these groups are always looking for mechanically minded men to create sets, to run lights, things like that. So what have you got to lose? It's just a bit of fun, you work backstage, you meet some new people. The only downside is that you're dating women who are performers, who love being on stage, who love that attention, which some people don't mind, but those kinds of women are very definitely a very specific breed. Number 7, Pilates and yoga. Now, this might sound a little bit too feminine for lots of you guys, but let me tell you a story. See, here in Australia, we've got this Australian Rules Football League, and one of the teams started doing Pilates, which is this muscle exercise routine that was created for ballerinas so they could do their ballet dances better, and that team vastly outperformed all the other teams. So there's your cover story. If you're big on sports and you just want to get a competitive edge, it's absolutely fine to get into stretching or Pilates or yoga, whatever it is. So if you don't mind a feminine atmosphere, I recommend going to take a local class. It's mostly going to be filled with women, and you do want to be a little bit careful. You can't come on too strong. Don't enter into the environment and just immediately start hitting on women. They're going to get extremely suspicious. Just take things slowly, take your time, get to know some of the people there, and you never know what's going to happen. Number 8, attend a class. Now, if you're a college kid, well, obviously you should just be meeting girls at college in your classes. That's obvious. But for people who are too old to still be attending university, there's still no reason why you can't go and attend some kind of night school class, something to do with a hobby that you have. Obviously, there's a bunch of online classes that you can take, but don't we already spend enough time in front of our screens? Do we really need to spend more time taking online school? Let's actually take that opportunity. It's like, yes, I want to learn something new. I want to develop myself in this area. Let's combine that with meeting a whole bunch of like-minded individuals in the real world. So if you're interested in painting, pottery, photography, hiking, whatever it is, find a local class and then go there and meet people. And because you've got this thing in common, it's not like you're just approaching strangers. When you go up to somebody and you're friendly to them or just run like a little bit of game, it's going to be a lot easier because you've got this sort of shared community feeling. You're all part of this same class, and it gives you something in common to talk about just to sort of lubricate the first part of the social interaction. In particular, I recommend that every guy go and check out a dance class. Not just because I think that all men should learn how to dance. I think that's a really important skill, but also because it's filled with women and there's a lot of body contact, straight away. It's a very intimate setting. Now, personally, I hate that. I don't like going to dance classes because the feeling of somebody I barely knowing just being in my personal space and touching my body is completely awkward, and it's just really, really uncomfortable. But most guys don't mind that. That's absolutely fine to them. So this can be a great way to meet women. Number 9, teacher class. This one can be pretty effective. So you've got this skill in music, business, computer programming, whatever it is, just develop a little simple class that you can teach people. Go to your local college or community center and advertise it, and then put something on. It's a free course. You're there to teach the basics and have a little bit of fun. You'll meet a whole bunch of new people, and because this is an environment that you created, people are going to look up to you as an authority figure. And with that status, you're going to be more attractive to women. That's a good thing. Number 10 is religion. You got to use God to get with girls. Seriously though, this is a great way of meeting people who have similar belief systems to you. So if you're a Christian, go to your church's local, social events. If you're a Buddhist, go to their meditation retreat. If you're an atheist, then join the secular humanist society. Whatever it is, it saves time when getting to know somebody to have that shared thing in common. You have the same spiritual beliefs. And meeting in that sort of socially approved setting means that women are going to be a lot more receptive to you than if you just approach them randomly off the street. I haven't added this one to the list, but I'll just put it on as a little bonus here that for guys who shot footage for me for this channel, like street interviews, they actually gave me a lot of feedback that it helped them a lot with their social anxiety. And they met lots of women and they loved talking about the content on this channel, and the women enjoyed talking about it. And lots of those guys are still in contact with women who they were interviewing, way back then. So I don't know, that's an idea. Maybe shoot footage for this channel or start your own YouTube channel where you interview people. But that is the end of the list. And again, let me remind you, this is not advice that I'm giving. I maintain that the best way to meet women is through your social circle, an extended group of people who are like-minded, high-quality individuals. But truthfully, it's not like you have to choose one or the other. A lot of the suggestions in this list could be incorporated into that wider strategy of building a social circle. So feel free to try whatever you find resonates with you. But in case you haven't seen them yet, I'm going to post links below to the numerous videos that I've made talking about the importance of social circle game and how to develop and build an extended social circle. I really recommend, if you haven't seen them, to watch those videos because they contain advice that I really stand behind. How are you meant to get over a breakup when your girlfriend has left you completely brokenhearted? That is the topic of my latest video. In this video, I explain the two different ways that you can experience a breakup. One where you have low self-esteem and you think that she's better than you, and one where you have high self-esteem and you think that you're better than she is. I explain how in that context it doesn't really matter who broke up with who in terms of emotionally processing it and creating a plan moving forward. I talk about how to correctly grieve and what is the proper relationship that you should have with your own emotions. I talk about the unconscious beliefs that you may have and how a breakup is useful in facilitating greater understanding and self-knowledge as to what those beliefs are and how you can potentially change them. And lastly, I talk about your relationship to reality and how that impacts you as a person. For every video that I post on YouTube, I post an additional bonus video on my Patreon page. That means that at the moment, you're only seeing half of the total content that I create. If you'd like to see the other half, then please head over to my Patreon page. It's just a $5 a month subscription and you get instant access to a huge number of exclusive videos. It's a wonderful way to support the channel and I'd be really grateful to see you over there.